Geltman's Mr. Lawyer over there. He doesn't say anything.
He's a centrist. Okay, here we are, Hammer Factor, episode number 12. Don't have a name for this, but on the horn we have whitewater legend and owner of Immersion Research, John Weld. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great.
Well, thanks for coming back for another recording.
Right.
Also on the horn we have poker champion and kayaker and Outdoor Alliance Council, Lewis Geltman. How are you doing, Lewis?
Good. Looking out the window, looks like North Dakota here. I'm kind of over it, but
yeah. Well, we got some rain here in Asheville. Everything's running, so I'm going kayaking in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, I did the paddle the upper this weekend. It's crazy. 60 degrees we put on.
Yeah,
I was in shorts.
I went over and paddled the Big South Fork Gorge, which I'll get into a little later, and we were doing a little trail run out there, and we were swatting mosquitoes.
Right.
So how weird is that?
Kayaking, sport of the future.
man.
So Lewis,
Facebook about and Rush told me the level was at least 2 tenths higher than it actually was, which was pretty standard. I think he's now officially added to the list of people who you have to subtract 2 tenths from whatever he tells you the level is.
He's joined the general public. Well, Lewis, last time we were talking to you, you were headed in to actually see the hearing for Zinke. What is the? Tell me about your trip up there in Washington.
Yeah, that's right. So I came back from Chile and went straight to DC, and I went last Tuesday to go check out the confirmation hearing for Ryan Zinke, who's a congressman from Montana, as the nominee to be the new Secretary of Interior. So I'd never been to one of these things before, so I put on the suit. Lives in the closet of my mom's house.
What's the Secretary of Interior? What's that job entail? I mean, what's the job description?
Secretary of the Interior is the person who runs the Interior Department, which oversees National Park Service, Bureau of Land Management, Fish and Wildlife Service, and then some other kind of like more obscure agencies like I don't know, I can't remember the name of it, like the agency that manages oil development on like the Outer Continental Shelf. And I think NOAA is in the Department of Interior, USGS. Basically, it's everything land management except for the Forest Service, which is in the Department of Agriculture. So basically, Secretary of the Interior is the most important person on public lands policy in the new administration. So I went down to the Hill to go check out the confirmation hearing, and the way that works is like Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, which kind of has jurisdiction over public land stuff. All the senators are kind of like at the front of the room, sitting around in kind of a half circle, and then in front of them is Zinke, the nominee, and so they, the senators make some like opening statements, then he makes an opening statement, and then they just ask him a bunch of questions about, kind of like his philosophy on public land stuff, votes he's taken in the past. Some of them use it as kind of an opportunity to just sort of complain about the Department of Interior or things that they're upset about. So that was interesting. I mean, it went on for, I want to say like 4 hours.
Wow. So what's the makeup of the Senate in front of them? Is it mostly Republican or is it pretty bipartisan?
It's that committee, which is I think maybe like 15 senators, more Republicans than Democrats, since the Republicans have a majority, but pretty close to even. Like if there are 15 senators, it's probably like 9 and 6 or something like that.
So what is he getting?
Yeah, is he seeing any kind of controversy like some of the other appointees, or is it this one pretty straightforward? Like
the education girl? Did you guys see her thing?
Or
Betsy DeVos? All right, sorry, you digress. Go ahead.
I guess I'll just say that, we did really well compared to some of the other nominees. Like, this is not Scott Pruitt, the guy who's nominated to lead EPA and has spent his entire career trying to destroy the EPA. Zinke, I think, we certainly have some disagreements on public lands policy, and I think that we'll still be playing plenty of defense. But he's on the House committee that's kind of the counterpart to that Senate committee, like the House committee that manages public lands issues. And he's taken some pretty hard votes against, what the Republican leadership wanted him to do. Like, he's kind of stood up for public land stuff in the past. He's, expressed a lot of admiration for Teddy Roosevelt, said he wants to be like Roosevelt, which is, some pretty big shoes to fill. But, better saying that than that he wants to be like the next Gale Norton or James Watt or something like that. So I don't know. It was interesting. I thought there were a lot of questions from Democrats and Republicans about recreation issues, like more than I think we would have expected. Zinke was real firm in his opposition to transferring public lands to the states or privatizing public lands, which is, it seems like kind of a low bar, but that's where we are, and it's a big deal to hear him say that. So that was good.
So what's it? What kind of room are you in? Like, I'm just trying to visualize. Is this public can come in? Do you have to be invited? What's going on?
Yeah. So it's like, it kind of looks like a courtroom, like, but there's more seats in the front, and then there's like kind of an audience, and Zinke sits kind of where the like defendant would, basically, just like right at the front of the room with all the senators sitting around him. You can watch all this stuff on C-SPAN if you ever have any inclination to do so. Like, if you look on the committee website, there'll just be a link, and you can just watch it all streaming. But I went down there, and I was an hour early, and there was a huge line of people trying to get in, and I had to watch the first half of it from like a overflow room just on like simulcast. There's a guy down there like dressed as Teddy Roosevelt. A lot of people from like nonprofits like ours, who are there just to kind of like take it all in. A lot of congressional staff, but it's all open to the public. You can go check this stuff out if you want to.
So did they bring up this House rules package that's been all in my news feed lately? Yeah.
So just to maybe bring everybody up to speed on that for a sec. This is kind of when I was out, but one of the first things the House did was pass this rules package. So every Congress kind of sets the rules for their own operation. And one of the things the new Congress did is, or in the House specifically, is they kind of set this budgetary rule. So anytime there's legislation, it gets a score, which means basically like what its effect will be on the budget. So something that generates revenue would have, like a positive score, and something that costs money would have like a negative score. And they set this rule that said that transferring public lands or giving away public lands would just score neutral. So even though they obviously have an unbelievable value, invaluable maybe even, they just said if we give these things away, we're going to treat it as if it has no effect on the budget. And so, it doesn't actually transfer any land yet, but it just kind of shows how this Congress is thinking about public lands issues, which is that they're thinking about giving away public lands. And so this did come up in that confirmation hearing because Zinke had voted for the rules package. And, the way he characterized it was that this is a shot across the bow. And he said that it's just an indication of the frustration that a lot of Republicans have with land management stuff, but that, it didn't necessarily have any effect, or it didn't have any effect until people gave it effect. And he said, I want to say it was Senator Heinrich from New Mexico, who's like awesome on public land stuff. He asked Zinke if this is something he would have voted for if it were standalone, and Zinke said he would not have, like, very clearly. So that was good to hear. I mean, I think it would have been easy to give a kind of evasive answer there, and he was pretty clear about it. So that was good.
So where the contention comes in on this transfer of public lands, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that people have a portion of taxes from everybody who pays taxes has went for years and years and years and years to manage, purchase, keep this federal land as federal land, maintain it. And now there's a group that wants to transfer this land without compensating the taxpayer who has spent years sort of paying into this anything, and just make it what would you call it, a neutral transfer? Is that where how this
Yeah, I
works?
mean, it's not so much the financial aspects of it that are troubling. It's just that it shows that people in Congress are very actively considering transferring public lands to the states. You know, it's not, the concern is not the effect on the budget. The concern is that these guys are thinking about getting rid of public lands. So,
Well, you'll have to keep us up to speed on that one. Sounds like an interesting trip.
yeah, it was cool, man. It was definitely a kind of like a shock to the system coming from Chile, and I'm, you know, like nose is peeling and looking kind of raggedy. I had his beard.
Well, you're one up on the Teddy Roosevelt guy.
My mom horse, and so I went and found like the clippers she has for the horse to like trim my beard.
Well, once again, go to Outdoor Alliance website, sign up for the newsletter, become a member of American Whitewater, and yeah, we're all behind you there, Lewis. That's really cool stuff, man. I like to tell people I know you and you do stuff like that.
Oh, likewise.
All right, so I think I told you guys, but our celebrity guest canceled on us today. So
Right. Snow. There's too much snow where this person is.
yeah, I think not to give away who our celebrity guest is, which I won't, but I'm pretty sure in the deal he promised some free gear to all of our listeners for not being around.
Great.
So we'll hold him
A
to
coupon or something we can
that.
use this code at checkout.
Exactly. So we'll hold him to that when we get him on
Great.
next week.
I think it's prudent.
But moving on, let's being that it is winter, although it doesn't feel like winter here in the Southeast. I know that you're deep in it, Lewis, where you're at, if it looks like North Dakota.
Yeah.
And you're not having a winter up there, are you, Weld?
No, it's 50 degrees and raining right now.
50 degrees and raining. But
Yeah.
winter kayaking is a thing that has caught on, I think, a lot more in the past 6 or 8 years. I really think that has to do with drysuit technology.
No doubt. There's no question about that.
But let's do a little discussion about winter kayaking. I kind of have my thoughts on it, and but let's throw it up to the frozen tundra up there. What's your thoughts on winter kayaking? And man, this is kind of hard because I think we've all been kayaking in the winter forever, and we're kind of the minority here. I think is like the general viewer, but give me some thoughts on winter kayaking when the season comes up for you, Lewis, and
It's the best, man. I mean, winter is kind of the season in the Northwest. It's, I'd say like January through May is really the main season, but I'd say January, February, March is really like the best, like when we usually have the best water out here. Not as many people.
It's pretty temperate, right? I mean, you guys don't typically have freezing temperatures there.
We've had this crazy winter here that I've thankfully missed the brunt of, but I mean, there's been snow on the ground here for like 6 weeks straight, which is super unusual, and it's, not cracking the mid-30s. I think it was much colder than that while I was gone, but yeah, usually it's much more temperate, like 40s most of the winter. But yeah, I mean, like I remember when I first moved out to the Northwest, and people from back home would be like, "Oh my God, like you guys kayak all winter in the Pacific Northwest." And I was like, it's like nothing compared to winter kayaking in West Virginia or something,
Yeah. where it's humid and 20 degrees.
Yeah. I remember running to Blackwater in the winter one time when I was a kid, and like the bank clock in Thomas said that it was like
17.
10.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember.
Definitely did not have a dry suit. Like when I got to the takeout, I couldn't even carry my boat. I had to just leave it down by the river and go warm up in the car before I could go back and get it.
Well, that reminds me of a day time we were paddling. We were doing drakes. This would have been a long time ago. And you were a kid. You were probably in high school. And you and your crew, I forget, I'm sure Ryan Bond was there, but you and your crew we were going to do drakes, and you guys showed up, and you were in slalom boats with bare feet. You didn't have slalom boats, but you had some really crappy plastic boats, and there was snow on the ground. And I'm like, man, these kids think they're badass because they can walk around in snow in the bare feet. But if anything happens, it's gonna be a huge pain in the ass for everybody,
I'm sure that attitude came directly through your lineage somehow. That was and you and Andy Bridge and somebody probably wore shoes to the river one day, and you probably called them a cupcake and beat them mildly and never.
Well, this is.
It's weird because we had a prophet. It was Tom McEwen, the prophet, and his message could be interpreted many different ways. Whether it meant you were eating dinner off of a flat rock because you just didn't bother to bring plates, or you're jumping off the cheap bridge, which is about 80 feet tall when you're 14 because no one's telling you not to. Yeah, that actually was I was a junior counselor at Valley Mill, and there was a bunch of counselors who were going to jump off the bridge at the end of the river. And they're asking me if I was going to jump, but I was thinking there's no way Tom's going to let me jump. Tom was on the river that day. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing it. And we got to the bottom, and then everyone's going to jump. And I was like, hey, Tom, I'm going to go jump off the bridge. And he's like, okay. I was like, oh, no.
Dude,
and I had to do it.
I had the exact same experience there. I was 12. I was like, there's no way Tom's going to let me do this. I landed probably 45 degrees from the
Well, I remember going kayaking with my dad and his friends when I was young, 13 years old or something, in the winter. And they gear, which is what I'm going to wrap this around to eventually, the gear was weak. I had this crappy wetsuit on, and I couldn't hardly move my arms, and it was like a wetsuit top. It wasn't a full body wetsuit, and I remember my feet were freezing. And so my dad and all his friends got the idea to put plastic bread bags around my socks. So they took tape and put bread bags around my socks while they were all wearing neoprene booties and whatnot. Right. But we were the only people on the river, and now you can go to the river in the winter, and there can be, the parking lot can be full, and I fully attribute that to gear because none of us are running around barefoot or with bread containers on our shoes or wetsuits or whatnot.
Right. I had the 5 mil Burt Reynolds style wetsuit with a beaver tail. Remember the beaver tail?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Between your legs.
It went up and buttoned.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then a wool sweater, and it had 2 metal turnbuckles on it to close it.
And you were happy to have it, is the thing. At least I was when I put that thing on. I was like,
what were your choices? My dad's like, we're going canoeing, and we're going to run Antietam Creek, and it's March. Here's your wool sweater and wetsuit. Let's go.
Oh, so being prepared for the weather. What, realistically, if you guys, either one of you, I'll throw this question out to both of you. What do you need to go out paddling on a day when it's 38 degrees, the water's flowing good, and you're going to be on the river for 4 or 5 hours?
Well, you need an IR dry suit. That's it's a completely obvious answer.
All IR, everything.
Yeah. Well, here's what I tell people when they call, for what it's worth. So, and this may be old news to people in paddling for a while, but maybe some newbies out there that can benefit from this. If the old rule is if the air temperature and water temperature add up to less than 100 degrees Fahrenheit, There should be some concern in the back of your head about hypothermia if you're going to be in the water for a long time. And that would mean like if you're far away from shore or you're going to be soaking wet because you're in the middle of nowhere. And really the cheapest way to deal with that, even still, is a wetsuit. I mean, you can get a wetsuit, like a surfing style wetsuit that's pretty comfortable and they're safe, man. You won't get hypothermia. You'd have to be hard pressed to paddle in cold enough weather to get hypothermia in a wetsuit, even a Farmer John. And they're inexpensive and there's low maintenance. So you're only paddling in freezing cold weather once or twice a year, for whatever reason, a wetsuit might be a fine alternative for some people. But if you're paddling 40 or 50 days a year, in cold weather, that's where it might be worthwhile to really invest in a dry suit. Because I don't know, it's a game changer, right? I mean, a good dry suit changes everything.
In the words of Andrew McEwen, it makes a hardcore attitude obsolete.
Yeah, right.
It does, and I'm not sure the wetsuit is as warm as you were portraying it, John. I've about froze my ass off in a wetsuit before.
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends on a bunch of things, but it would. I think it's functional in pretty cold weather for sure for keeping getting hypothermia. You may be miserable.
Pogies?
The other side of that coin is they're hot. I mean, they have one temperature setting. If it's even the slightest bit warm out, you're going to be scorching in one of those.
True, you can layer up differently underneath your dry suit.
Yeah.
Pogies, yes or no?
Pogies, of course. I know Geltman out west has in the Pacific Northwest a different attitude about this. I think they kind of poo-poo pogies, but I don't know how you'd possibly keep your hands warm enough out here without pogies. I don't think it's possible. Like, what? Right? Help me out here, Grace.
I'm pro pogies. I'm a pogie guy all the way. Even if I only wear them, it seems like I can get away with wearing them for the first 20 minutes, and then I can kind of get rid of them. But I always have them with me. I mean, it can be 50 degrees and I have them with me. All
right, Geltman, shoot us down.
Come on.
Oh, man, if you're soft and that's what you need to get through.
All right. There we go.
Well, this leads me into some viewer mail, and we're going to put John Weld here on the hot seat, which is just always so exciting and fun.
Yeah.
Big thanks, big hat tip here to Jason Hart for throwing in this viewer mail. I love all the viewer mail, and our show producer, we brought on Charlie Kearns. I don't know if you guys know Charlie Kearns, but she is going to be our show producer, and she'll be much better at getting back to the viewer mail than I am. So for the people who
imagine that
sent some stuff in, well.
Every once in a while, I check out the Facebook page, and it says like 50% response rate, like average response time or something like that.
2 months.
Anyway, I do my best. So anyway, Charlie's going to be way more on top of that. But we do love our viewer mail. I love reading through them, and I spent the other day reading through about 40 of them, and one jumped out at me, and this is from Jason Hart. Jason says, I want a sales pitch from John Weld on why I should buy an IR dry suit over other manufacturers, specifically the Kokatat Idol. He says, I have 3 pieces of IR gear. An LS Session semi-dry top, which sucks and never kept me dry, he says. An SS Rival semi-dry top, really, really like and does keep me dry. Lucky Charm skirt, love it, even on my leaky Liquid Logic kayak rim. I'm in the market for a dry suit, am fat, sweat a lot, and paddle mostly class 3 and 4. I'm from Richmond, Virginia, so I'd love to support IR, but I'm afraid of plunking down serious coin for a dry suit. Kokatat has the 2-piece factor, which is great, and Gore-Tex, so I need a sales pitch on why IR's membrane is at least as good, if not better, than Gore-Tex. Give me some science. That's hot seat, buddy. Woo.
Okay. All right. This is going to take about an hour and a half to answer. So if you guys want to get some lunch or something. All right. Let's make this as quickly and succinct as possible. Okay. In terms of gear analysis, a long sleeve Session was a jacket we made a number of years ago. It was meant to be a very, very lightweight, very breathable jacket. And the problem with those is, while if you live in the East Coast, you love to have a lightweight, breathable jacket, they're just not that durable. And that's why we stopped making them. The short sleeve Rival was the the next generation of that, which we made with more of a dry top weight fabric. They're not as breathable as the Session was, but they last forever. And skirts, of course, we all know everyone loves IR skirts. So
you need to tell him to go up to the Royal Flush from the Lucky Charm. I'm gonna
really. Okay, to be honest, with the same skirt, the Royal has Kevlar on it. Kevlar is great if for whatever reason you're really hard on skirts, and there could be many reasons for that, including boat design with a higher cockpit rim, with makes you hit your skirt harder with your paddle. But anyway, so dry suits. He mentions Gore-Tex right off the bat. Kokatat has an exclusive license for Gore for paddle sports in the United States. But the thing about Gore-Tex is, the main technology that Gore-Tex uses is a Teflon-based laminate, which is one of two main ways to make a breathable laminate. And they lost their patent. They didn't lose their patent; expired on that in the mid '90s. So we could go out and make a Gore clone. We could go out and just knock off exactly what they make. And we've in fact made dry suits out of material that is strikingly similar to the Kokatat Gore-Tex. There's some advantages to the Kokatat Gore-Tex, and there's some disadvantages of it. I think Kokatat's a great company. They make a great product, so I don't want to, go into exact details of what the pros and minuses of that are. We use another technology that we have been developing for 18 years on and off, that we're very proud of in terms of specific breathable laminate for paddle sports, which is extremely difficult environment for a breathable laminate. It's hot, it's sweaty, it's very high pH, very low pH in the armpit of these garments, and they fall apart. Early on, we were certainly made some bad garments, and we learned a lot, but I think nowadays, 18 years in, we've really developed a great laminate for paddle sports. I'll let Lewis or someone who's been using our dry suits for a while, they could talk about the durability here in a second. But what also you need to talk about in terms of a dry suit is how it's put together, and how it's going to get serviced post sale. Because it's not just about the fabric; it's how it's been taped and how it's been designed and how specific the manufacturing process has been made towards whitewater kayaking. And to be honest, it's not rocket science. It's not an easy job, but it's not exceedingly difficult. There's not that many companies out there who are that concerned about making a dry suit strong enough for whitewater paddlers. There's not a lot of money in it, and to be honest, most big outdoor companies could think of a million ways to spend their money besides doing that. But the couple of us that are very concerned with it, Kokatat is certainly one, and I think we're certainly another. And what that means is we take how these garments are taped and how they're assembled and where the seams are placed very seriously. And then the final piece of the puzzle is at some point the suit's going to need to be serviced. Dry suits, they're very difficult to keep dry forever for whatever reason. The gaskets tear, or the feet start to leak, or you puncture holes in it for whatever reason. You need a company that has a repair site that's easy to reach. So we have a full factory in Pennsylvania that we do repairs every day. We have a full-time person on staff doing it, as does Kokatat. So I honestly think either one of our brands is a great choice. Kokatat's two-piece suit, that's not a revolutionary idea. Everyone's looked at doing that, who's thought about making dry suits. The zipper company that makes their zippers came up with that idea, or they made it possible a couple of years ago. We passed on it. The reason I don't care for it is that you have a big zipper that has to fit around your shoulders, and that sits around your waist like a barrel stave or a barrel ring, as far as I can tell. Nonetheless, I know it's been a very popular suit for them, and I know people love it. So, that's just my opinion on it.
Well, let me put my opinion on the two-piece, and this not to throw a poo-poo on the two-piece idea, because I do know that a lot of people like them, but I go from a dry suit to pretty much a shorty top. There's no in between. Like, I'll wear my dry suit up until, I'll just put shorts and a cotton t-shirt under it up until it's time to just be done with it and go to a pair of shorts with some kind of other top. So for me, that wouldn't really be a humdinger, but I'm not your normal guy.
Everybody I've seen who's had that two-piece Kokatat suit has, and I'm not saying this is a knock on Kokatat, but more just that specific idea. Like, people are not stoked on it. It's like there's like a bolt that kind of sticks out. It's like a pain to take on and off. I would shy away from that thing if that were me.
Yeah, it's kind of
well,
like
the thing is that when we looked at it, to fit a jacket over your shoulders, the opening needs to be at least 40 to 45 inches. You know what I mean, to get over your shoulders. And those zippers don't stretch, and so that is, you're gonna have a 45-inch ring of some plasticky material around your waist when that thing's zippered up. However, I know that they sell a lot of them, so that's obviously not an issue for some people. I've never even tried one on, so I've talked with the guys at Kokatat about it, and I've seen them in person, but I've never tried it on, so I can't say exactly what
Lewis.
it's like to wear it.
What dry suit are you wearing, Lewis, and how's it working for you?
7-figure. It's awesome. I think mine's, I want to say it's like 2.5 years old at this point. I've yet to send it back for anything.
How many days a year do you wear that suit, do you reckon?
100 or 150 maybe.
Right.
That's impressive.
That's what we're shooting for. I mean, I'd like to think that an average user would get 10 years worth of use out of that suit without anything major happening.
I got a lot of miles on it, and it's been awesome. I mean, and as Weld can attest, I'm not shy about complaining about gear when it's not suiting me.
No, that is true.
Nor am I.
It's good.
Well, there's no doubt. And not trying to ruffle any feathers here, John, but there's no doubt that 6 years ago there was a big difference between a IR dry suit and a Kokatat dry suit, but there is also no doubt that gap has become a lot narrower, if it even exists. So I just think it's cool to see the innovation, and I think it's cool to see so many people paddling year round. I mean, because the water, in the spring, I'm just talking from a Southeast perspective. I'm not getting into California or your backcountry or whatever. But in the spring and summer, you get water that runs, but it comes up real high and it drops out really fast, and you really can't plan on it and whatnot. But here, I mean, you get, a rainy pattern, and you can predict your weekend, 8 or 10, 15 days in advance. So it's just better paddling. In the Southeast, you can see all the cliffs and everything that are normally hidden by the jungle. I just went to the Big South Fork over this weekend, and, it was rolling at like 4,500 CFS. And I don't know. Don't stay inside. Paddling in the winter is a great opportunity. And with the gear that is available nowadays, that, like you say, manufacturers, we hear it right here from a manufacturer, the gear is made to last for a decade, or at least that's the goal. Get out there and go paddling. Right.
Now that ski resorts will probably be out of business in 10 years, this is a good investment in your lifetime fitness here.
Yeah. It's no joke. There's the ski resorts around here are sending people on caving trips and all this other things and trying to work out deals where they get a percentage of the caving trips for people who want to go up to ski. And there's nothing. I mean, it's the time of year to go paddling right now in the Southeast. And I mean, I guess it's a little cold right now where you're at, Lewis, but typically it's prime time.
It's not even cold. It's just low, Like if we could get like 2 days of 50-degree weather and light rain, it can go back to being like this, and I'll be fine. Man.
Do you think we answered Jason Hart's question?
I think so. Well, I don't know. I think we did. I think Kokatat's a great choice, but I think you could look at IR as a serious possibility also.
Being too modest, Weld. Just buy an IR dry suit, man.
All right. I'm not going to say that, but
okay. Well, let's move on. Let's go. You guys want to stay on the gear topic?
Yeah.
All right.
Love gear.
Piranha's got a new boat out, the Machno. It seems it's getting some praise from some of the fanboys out there. We're hearing some different reviews coming from here and there. Lewis, we'll start with you.
No names mentioned.
No names mentioned. What are you thinking about the Machno? This is Piranha's new. It's targeted as the friendly creek boat. Am I saying that right?
It looks a little wide for me.
Have you paddled the 9R,
I have.
Geltman?
Oh, sorry.
Either.
I paddled the 9R once on like class 3, and I thought it was pretty sweet, but a little bit small for me. And then I bought a large 9R kind of sight unseen, and it's just not the same boat, and I didn't like it at all.
Really?
Yeah. But I think the little 9R is a sick boat.
Yeah, it's weird how that happened because I paddled.
How much do you weigh, Lewis?
I $185.
Huh. So you'd buy the smaller one if you were to buy one.
Yeah, I would like to have one of those like in the quiver for racing, but yeah, I don't.
Yeah, it's so weird how that the big one is a different boat. It just turned out to be a different boat. Rocker profile, everything's different on it.
Huh.
So
it looks well. Grace, you said earlier it looks like a. What'd you say it looks like?
Well, back to the Machno. It looks like a Wavesport Descente. You know, it's like
a lot of rocker on that thing.
It's like we're going back to like 1999 technology. So, I mean, to me, the 9R with its whole shape, the rocker profile and whatnot is where you want to be. And man, they just really went back to a little tub. Piranha was winning with the 9R, in my opinion. They're coming out with that boat.
Where do they go next? Make like a tornado type thing?
Well, they can make a big.
Or is it
9R.
tornado? How do you pronounce that?
I call it a tornado.
I don't know, man. I'm not sure. I feel like, the 9R is sick, but it's like you want to have, like a really easy boat for really running like the hardest whitewater, like in the quiver, right? And like I feel like maybe the Machno is kind of intended to move in that direction because it's like unless you weigh like 130 pounds or are as good at kayaking as Gerd, like you're not going to really want to run. I mean, the 9R is a sick boat, but it's not necessarily like the easiest boat, right? And I think there's something to be said for having like a really easy class 5 capable boat.
I don't know, man. I think when you have like a twisty, like a rockered out boat that turns all easy and whatever, when you get in hard whitewater, you can't make it move. You're just correcting it.
Yeah, I hear you. I agree with that to a point. For sure.
I had the Shiva for years, and I just felt like it was almost too easy of a boat to paddle. I was gaining no enjoyment from it,
I guess that was what I like about the Tunas. I feel like I kind of got to a point where I felt like I needed like a real easy old man boat, but I wanted something that was still like pretty dynamic, and I felt like that kind of hit that spot for me. But
well, if you've paddled the Machno, send us an email or put a comment up. I really want to. I'm a Piranha fan. I'm a Piranha Kayaks fan. Along with several other brands, but I saw that one and I was just like, oh man, it just didn't do anything for me. So, but if you're a lover of the Machno, let us know.
I think this is where like Robert Pearson's going to start a podcast and start dissing on IR. I think the new Devil's Club suit is just a step in the wrong direction. A black dry suit?
I don't know, speculate on how it might be.
Right.
Exactly.
Just imagine what all this gear would be like.
Listen,
I give it an F+. What I'm seeing here on this website.
Look, it's a 100% alternative fact that boat is not where we want to be at this point.
We need to get like Dave Fuselli on here because he's paddled both these boats. Although he's going to be hard pressed to be a cheerleader for these things.
Yeah, I would love to get Dave on the show because he'd be fun, but he wouldn't be the guy to talk to about. I'm gonna get him on. What if he got on here and was like, "Well, this dry suit, dude, you sent it to me. The arm fell off." I mean,
I'd be like, "Can we edit that out?" God. Let's talk about paddles for a second.
Yes, let's talk about paddles.
Because I ordered a paddle.
You ordered a paddle.
I ordered a paddle. I broke my paddle
like 2 months ago.
Well, I did, but I had a backup. I had an old AT here that I've been using, but it's been very nerve wracking because the thing is really old. It already has a crack in it. I've been expecting to break it at any second. So I ordered a Dachi left-hand control
186 bench shaft,
204 bench shaft. right?
We just trying to ensure that if you ever broke or lost your paddle, you have no option to borrow anything.
All right. Well, let's just get to the most tangible, the most tangible thing to discuss here, and that's the bench shaft. Do we think the bench shaft is a ploy developed by slalom racers 20 years ago that sort of got adopted by paddle makers to sell more paddles?
Yeah.
What degree offset did you get?
45.
I started using a bench shaft when I was probably 14 years old, and my super sophisticated theory on why it was a good idea was that Brent Weasel and Ian Wiley used them, and I wanted to be like those guys, so I got a bench shaft.
Right.
You
You probably had a double torque though, which is different than a bench shaft nowadays, right?
Yeah, I had the old original double torque that gives you like negative extension. It's the same as the ATs pretty much, except that it's asymmetrical also. It has the bend is to the right of the
right.
And I used it that 9 years. And then
it makes for a great draw stroke on one side of the boat, at least. I mean, you can pull the blade under the boat, basically.
A great sweep on the other. It's like awesome for
right. As long as like your slalom course is all upstreams on the right side, and the course is bending to the left, you're in great shape.
Yeah. But my feeling on double torques or the bench shafts is that it's heavier, it breaks easier, it's more expensive, and it may have some dubious performance benefits, or maybe it helps you if you really legitimately have tendonitis or something.
John Grace, what do you got?
Something really wrong with you, just get a straight shaft, man.
Yeah.
Did you really get a bench shaft weld?
Well, I did. I'll tell you why. Is because for the same reason that Lewis had a bench shaft, I kind of got a bench shaft also, because during that time it seemed like that's where everyone's going. But I used to get tendonitis at the beginning of the season when I was teaching really bad every year, like clockwork. And with a bench shaft, when you reach your hand forward to put the paddle in, your pinkies are still completely on the. Grace is making a face. I could see it, and so it seemed to fix it. But I have to admit, even I think it's a silly thing. But I've been using one for 15 years now.
Well, my only experience, I'm not a good one to talk about this. My only experience with a bench shaft paddle was, what year was it? 2002. I broke a lot of paddles on a kayaking trip out west. It was like a 4-month trip out there. And I was just going through these paddles. I was trying to just buy like a $60 paddle here or trade it up. And so I went through all these paddles, and somebody was like, hey, I got this AT bench shaft. It's like a $350 paddle. I'll sell it to you for $100. I was like, all right, I'll take it. And I'd never paddled a bench shaft in my life. And we were hiking into the Middle Kinks. That was the first time I was going to use it. And we got on the river, and we went through day one. And we got to camp that night, and I went across the river, and I put the paddle on the trail, and I put my breakdown together, and I used it for the rest of the trip. So, never paddled again, left it in there, told some people, somebody got it for free. I don't know. So it's not for me, man. I think it's a total, just complete weirdness. I think it's, I don't think it makes any sense. I don't think there's any benefits. I think that it's like Lewis said, they break more. Just everything about them is bad, and they're not good, and you should not paddle.
I rattled off my paddle statistics, and I realized I sound pretty bad. So, but 204 length. Are we all in agreement that someone who's 6 feet tall should be using a 204 these days? Is that back to being accepted knowledge? Maybe that might be even the short side.
No, I think that's a good length for a 6-foot guy. And I had a conversation with someone about this.
Geltman's making a face. So I got to hear.
No, that's in there. I don't know. That's long for a bench shaft. I'm 6'2" and I have a 203.
What does that even mean, long for a bench shaft?
You're in the range of what's cool.
Are bench shafts longer when they're the same length? What does that even mean?
I think typically people go shorter with the bench shafts.
See, that's another. Anyway, I don't even want to get into it. My thoughts are this. Somebody was talking about, well, you don't want to paddle that long because it's going to mess up your shoulders and whatnot. But this is the thing. When you're paddling class 5, oftentimes you need, not necessarily, you're not in this position. I liken it to like trail running versus running on a track. A lot of times you're jumping, you're taking big steps, you're taking small steps. And while if you were paddling flat water, you may want a slightly shorter paddle to keep your alignment and everything, your top hand from being better or whatever. But if you're going over a drop and you need to dig in a little bit more stroke at the end, or you're trying to correct your boat, or you're having to like lean to the offside to keep an edge up and take a stroke, you need a longer paddle. I'm firmly convinced that 204 is a good length for a 6-footer.
All right. Okay, so left-hand control, right?
Ugh. Well, I guess
I know.
no one's going to take your paddle.
Well, but I'll tell you the reason behind this. There is a reason. I have a theory, and I have data to back it up. You ready? So I learned to paddle. At Valley Mill, right?
With like 90-degree mohawk with no index. And
that's right, 90-degree flat blade mohawk, right?
Okay.
All of us, like 80% of us, are lefties. You could spot someone who learned to paddle with a 90-degree paddle with no offset because they're a lefty, right? Everyone from that generation. At some point along the way, Valley Mill spent the big bucks and got those Norses with a spoon on it. But it's like a shovel.
I remember the intermediate step there that was taking like a picnic knife and just like taping it on all of the control.
Yeah.
Oh,
but like there was like a Eastern European slalom team who was all lefty for the same reason. It was like the I don't know. It was, where's Renata from? They're all lefties. And what's that?
Czech.
Was it Czech? Yeah, all those people are lefties too for the same reason.
I've heard people say that if you're right-handed, your right hand's stronger, so that should be the hand that you're like going looser, tighter with all the time, and so that's why it makes sense to be left-handed.
We're all right. All of us are right-handed. We're all left-hand control paddle.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a dozen of us out there.
I'm going left.
Still paddling.
I'm getting a left-handed paddle. I'm convinced.
Well, I have tried over the years to break myself of that habit, because if you break a paddle or lose a paddle, no one has. Even break aparts nowadays only have one hole for right-hand control. You know what I mean? And it's useless. Like I cannot use a righty paddle. I have tried over and over and over.
I use a 65 and it's just as bad. It's like if somebody breaks out the breakdown and it's like a 30-degree offset, it's like
you're like
can't control paddle.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that, because I use 45, and 45 I consider to be basically a flat-bladed paddle.
Yeah.
There's like no offset at 45 degrees.
So you guys both use bent shaft paddles?
No, Geltman doesn't.
No.
Oh, thank God.
I'm rethinking the bent shaft. When I do my wildwater boat, I still use a straight shaft paddle, and I don't even bat an eye. There's no transition. I could go back to a straight shaft without any problem.
A lot of people rave about them. That was my only experience. And
who do you know who's good that uses a bent shaft?
Dane.
Does Dane use a bent shaft?
I think so.
So it's me and Dane.
Well, you're in good company.
I can't think anybody's using a bent shaft nowadays around me that I could think of.
I can't either. I'm trying to picture someone. I'm just trying to picture loading the boats up. Somebody. I don't know. I can't picture it.
That's the other problem with the left-hand control, is when you're putting paddles on the roof, the paddles in the car, or paddles in the ski bag. The guy with the left-hand control paddle is messing with the program.
Yeah. Sorry.
Get it together.
All right. What do we got next? What's next? Let's hear.
I'm not sure we got anything else. We've
rambled our way through another hour.
I've probably made so many people upset.
If we have any listeners after this show, we'll know who's like the true fans.
Oh, let's get into our rants and raves. Anybody got any rants and raves? I got a rave. I'll throw it on out there. Big South Fork Gorge of the Cumberland River. You guys ever heard of it?
Yeah, it's like class 4.
Yeah,
Something like that.
Yeah, it's like a class 3-4 run. No dams. It's a big river. It's a full-on river. It runs at 10,000 CFS all the time. It's in a huge national recreation area, the Big South Fork Gorge National Recreation Area. No one around, no crowds, nobody up there. And I mean, it was wintertime, and we just paddled 12 miles of this river in this remote canyon in the middle of nowhere, and it just had every rapid had a big surf feature in it or something to do. And I haven't been over there in like a decade since I lived in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm going to rave on the Big South Fork Gorge of the Cumberland because it was really good. It was really, really, really good.
Man, I have a rant, but we did pool rolling sessions with my kids last Thursday. Every Thursday night now here at WVU, we have pool rolling sessions brought to you by Pathfinder of West Virginia. And it doesn't start till 8:30 at night, but I brought my 8-year-old over there, and he did a roll, man. He actually did 8 rolls. We got done, and he got home at like 10:30 at night on a school night. It was awesome.
Yeah, Asher's stoked.
Yeah. So pool rolling sessions, right? That's every town. Whitewater. Maybe not a whitewater park, but at least pool rolling sessions.
Man, what's stated that is really sweet that we have out here is kayak polo.
Yeah.
I think the weather has gotten bad enough and the water level has gotten low enough that I'm ready to jump back in on the kayak polo game, which is actually really fun.
We could go back to the David Taylor Model Basin. Remember that? Okay. That's a topic for another day.
Where do you do your water polo at, Lewis?
At it's kayak polo at the just the pool here in Hood River. It's like a mile down the road. It's pretty fun.
I bet.
Man, that's a good idea. Get some kayak polo going. Well, there's no reason to go indoors. It's 65. We haven't had a night that hit freezing in maybe 2.5 weeks or something like that. So,
well, guys, we call it there.
Let's call it. You got a phone call you got to get on, right, Lewis?
You got to jump.
All right. Remember to subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your favorite podcast subscription service is. We love your viewer mail. Thanks a lot, John. Thanks a lot, Lewis. And we will try our celebrity guest next week.